All right, we're back for another episode of the Cheap Seats, episode 2. Beds, how are you doing?
First episode I have to apologize for, man. I was recovering or at the ground floor of the Ebola virus.
You were.
Man, that was interesting. But I'm doing great now. I finally have my energy back. I'm ready to talk some sports. How's Randy Forcier?
Doing good, dude. Just thinking back to our last episode, there's just so many things that happen in sports. It's almost like this podcast could be a weekly thing or multiple
Yeah.
time per week thing with all the things that happen in the sports that we follow. So just a bunch of stuff to catch up on. Baseball's not that far away. I'm looking forward to your thoughts on that, but we got a whole bunch of things to chat about. Before I get to that, I want to ask anyone that is listening, whether it's on Spotify, Apple, or YouTube, if you could do me a favor, like the video if it's on YouTube, follow the podcast on YouTube, subscribe on Spotify, Apple. We would really appreciate it. We're having fun doing this. We'll do it every month and just keep it going. So more people that listen, the better.
We're looking to go big time.
Absolutely. Got to start someplace. So you ready to talk some sports?
Yeah, where do you want to start today?
So I want to start with something that's a little bit closer to home. For
Yeah.
anyone that's local to the Biddeford soccer area, Maine area, you probably know that the Biddeford High School girls basketball team played in the state championship game this past weekend. First state championship game since 1974, and it was a pretty big deal. It was kind of electric news leading up to it, and I know it seemed like the whole town, anyone that was around, was at that game on Saturday. Were you there?
Yeah, I was there. What an amazing game.
Oh, brutal game.
Yeah.
It seemed like so I watched. I will say I was skiing and I was watching it on my phone with the kids, and it seemed like a really physical game.
Yeah.
And maybe Biddeford was a little bit off for most of the game before they made a little bit of a run at the end.
It's shout out, by the way, to the 74 team because I saw some stuff recently with the alumni. It was cool to see some of those ladies show up to that alumni event for them. So, here we are with this group of girls. I gotta be honest with you, Randy. What a disappointing loss. Something cool is happening in our town with all of these female athletes, just in general. Before we get to the game, like shout out to all of these amazing female athletes because they've given us so many amazing games to watch over the last 10 years minimum.
Well, basketball aside, basketball is kind of the new one into the picture, but for the past, like you said, 10 years, field hockey, softball, volleyball. There's probably more that I'm kind of out of the loop on, but those are the ones that our friends and acquaintances seem to have daughters on and my kids play. So I'm kind of all in on those sports. And man, that's the thing that strikes me. The Biddeford girls athletes, not just this year, but over the past 10 years, it's been incredible.
It's been incredible. So where do we start with this game? So the loss is really hard to take, but the fact that they were there and they played as well as they did, considering the start, actually through 3 quarters, well, actually there was kind of a few areas within the second period where it's like, all right, the girls are starting to get in a flow. I remember playing in that gym. It was just a couple times. I remember playing up in the expo. The backdrop where there's no wall sometimes affects shooters. It seemed like that was a little bit of a factor early. And maybe with this team being so young, just a couple of seniors, Ayla Lagasse, Smith. I believe I'm missing one more, so I apologize for that. But it just seemed like deer in headlights initially. Some shots weren't going down. There was a moment where I noticed Coach sort of tuned him up on the bench, and all of a sudden they snapped out of it in the second period. The ending of that game.
Before the ending, I'll hold off on that for 1 second.
Yeah.
I will say what I saw when I was watching it online, it just didn't seem like they had their best stuff. They were missing a lot of shots. There was bodies on the ground all the time. Caribou obviously came to play. They're really physical. They had at least one really big girl. It got to the point in the fourth quarter. We're skiing. We're having lunch, watching at the lodge. But they were down by 8 with 5 minutes to go. I think it was 36-28. And here I am. I'm like, man, they got to recover from an 8-point deficit with 5 minutes left. They've only scored 28 points to this point in the game. Like they have to score 25% of their points right now in the next 5 minutes and stop Caribou from scoring. So we turned it off and we're like, that's too bad. They made it there. But I was impressed to hear afterwards that they came back. What was that last few minutes like leading into overtime? Because this game ultimately did go to overtime.
Out of body. like the moment where Julian Edelman sort of continues to say, like to the Pats, it's going to be a hell of a story. For some reason, that was in my mind. It's going to be a hell of a story. This is not done yet. You believe in the girls, you believe in the coaching, you believe in the players. And like incrementally, some little things started to happen. We got a couple of calls. There was a flopping call against one of the Caribou players. Ayla got right into her and maybe put a knee in the middle of her chest. And for some reason, there was a flopping call. And that was sort of in the area of like, wow, that's everything at this particular moment is sort of leaning Biddeford's way. The Silver girls banged a couple threes with a couple of random plays. She made it, I think it was a game tying layup or put them up by two at a certain point. It was just cool because you could feel that momentum and you had that pride, and as, being close to the Legacy family and watching Ayla sort of bust her tail out there with her teammates, the pride just started leaking right through. It's like, wow, this is imminent. This is going to happen. You've watched so much sports, Randy, where you're like, you feel that momentum, you know what the result is going to be. That's how it felt at that moment.
And I don't want to like get into the play-by-play of the end.
No, no, no.
Basically, it was a scenario where they took a lead and they were up. If my understanding is correct, is they were up 3 points with not a whole lot of time left, and things ultimately did not go Biddeford's way and the girls on the team way. Like, kind of a worst case scenario of, some missed shots, missed free throws, missed opportunities, fouls,
Yep.
things like that. And then ultimately Caribou, the girl from Caribou, who I guess is a great player, made a couple free throws with a second left and they ended up winning. Just a hell of a job by those girls. And I'm sure they're very bummed out. I've lost games in high school that ended my season and my career, and it was gut wrenching and heartbreaking, all that stuff. And I'm sure this is one too. I hope it doesn't let them. I hope the girls don't let it define them. And I know there's young girls that'll come back too, but just some of the seniors and kids like Ayla, who's had such a great high school career in athletics, she should be proud of the way she's played and all the sports she's had in high school. And I'm bummed that they didn't get it this time.
Yeah, so like that Edelman sort of analogy that I gave you there, in that game for Atlanta, the Pats in Atlanta, you started projecting like everything needed to go right. We need this to happen here, and it incrementally happened. That was the adverse for us at the end of that game. Like there are so many things that could have went the opposite way to make that ending so much easier for us, and we would be celebrating a victory. It was just kind of funny how you're out of it. You go to overtime because you had an amazing run. You start the overtime with an amazing run, and then all of a sudden we had the adverse at the end. But wanted to say real quick, I'm just so proud of Ayla. So proud of Ayla. I don't know, man. It's been fun watching all of these young female athletes turn into. I used to say this about Haley. Her journey was different because she didn't get into field hockey super early. Her journey was the build up to what she had her senior year. She learned something. She wasn't a 4-year player. Some players are. I always think it's the journey, and I think it's girls turning into young women, turning into amazing women, and I think there's some value in what they just went through.
Absolutely. They should be really proud. They had the whole city buzzing for a couple weeks, not just that championship game, but the playoff game before and just their whole run. They're an exciting group of girls, and I'm excited that they had 3 freshman starters and 2 sophomores, and they will be back. Those girls will be back. And with my daughter going into 8th grade, which is at the high school, and then high school to follow, like she'll be able to be in the center of all that stuff because I know that those girls will get there again at some point.
Yeah, what does Biddeford look like? They got the Silver Twins. They'll be sophomores next year. Jordan's going to be a junior. Apparently, there's a girl that's a freshman that was injured this year. That's a good player. The pipeline from 7th to 8th grade the next couple of years. So, yeah, you got the Smythe kid. This should be a nice 4-year run.
Yeah, for sure. They'll be back. So, but shout out to them. Just wanted to congratulate them on a great season. And I'm glad you got a chance to go.
Yeah, thank you.
So you want to talk about some NBA?
Yeah, man. Where do we start with the NBA?
Well, because we're Boston homers, we're going to start with the Celtics.
Yeah.
And I want to ask you something not even NBA game related, but did you watch the first episode of Celtic City yet? Because I have not. Do you know what I'm talking about? It started on Monday, I guess. Did you get a chance to watch it?
Yeah, I started it on Monday, fell asleep, watched the episode through last night. A lot of stuff that I've already seen, but I'm interested to see how. I think there's 8 or 9 episodes.
Yeah, it's gonna be every week for the next couple months.
I'm really interested to see how they're going to piece it together. Obviously, with the first episode, they're doing some stuff from the ground floor with Red
Yeah,
and Bill and Kuz. But I like how they mixed in some Bird, some KG, some Tatum. It's going to be awesome.
yeah. I haven't gotten a chance to watch it. Past few days have been insane, but I'm really looking forward to it. And anything Bill Simmons is involved in, and it just Celtics. The trailer looks fantastic. I'm just all in on it, and I'll probably watch it tonight.
The Last Dance, the 30 for 30, stuff like that. You've got Bill's name on it. It's probably going to be amazing.
Yeah. So good. I'm glad you had a chance to watch that. Celtics, in my opinion, have been playing pretty well lately. They had a tough game this weekend, which you can get to, but I kind of feel like they found their footing again after stepping back earlier in the season. What are your thoughts on the Celtics lately?
One of the things that I thought about all season, and there are times where this team turns me off, and I think having played as many games as they did last year, Drew, Tatum played during the summer. Tatum didn't play as much. D. White played. These guys have played a lot of games, so my impression of this season so far has been a little bit of a letdown, but I realize why it has been. There have been multiple times where Kristaps has been out. D. White had a week where something was going on. Drew's been in and out of the lineup. So it's like they've been piecing together stretches of the season where guys are playing with different guys on the court. But this recent stretch, some guys have been healthy. Unfortunately, Kristaps got the flu recently, but he's been playing great. D. White's been playing great. It's like kind of rounding into form. They're winning the games that they're supposed to, with the exception of that Cavs game.
Which is not a game they're necessarily supposed to win. It was at home. I mean, we knew it was going to be a tough game. It's probably the Eastern Conference Finals preview at this point. So they played tough. It's it's a tough one to lose, but it's not like they got smoked.
I wonder what you and I said for wins with Cleveland at the beginning of the year. I think we probably both took the over, and if we did, I hope we did.
Yeah, I'll have to look back at that, but we definitely didn't predict them to be the number one seed. We didn't predict them to have more wins than the Celtics. So it really is a surprise, but they look like a solid team, man.
Dude, they've got wow. I'm worried about the Cavs. Two awesome bigs. Their wing players are studs. Mitchell sees a green jersey in front of him and he loses his mind and just immediately goes into.
I think he averages 35 points a game against the Celtics. He could care less about the Celtics. He's someone in our text string was referring to him as a Celtics killer, and I don't love that.
So I like where they're heading. I don't like that Cavs loss. I will say this about the Cavs loss. I watched the game live. They were missing Drew. I didn't like how Hauser had the defensive assignment on Mitchell, because that was steak dinner for Mitchell. I mean, he absolutely destroyed us. So if we have a full squad, like, I'm worried about the Cavs, but if we have a healthy full squad, I think an ending to that game is a different look if you have your regulars covering Mitchell.
I agree. The thing that scares me is a Game 7 in Cleveland. I go back and forth on how important home court advantage is, but obviously at the end of the day, it would be nice to have it be in Boston. And if it goes 7 in Cleveland, that'll be a challenge. But like you said, I do think that the guys will be rounding into form towards the end of the season and into the playoffs. And when everyone's on the court, maybe having Drew on Mitchell makes a difference. So Tatum, one of 3 players to score at least 13,000 points and have 4,000 rebounds in their career before the age of 27. He's been putting up some good rebounds and assist numbers. He is freaking feeling it this year. But I think he even commented on just how he doesn't get any love, and I don't know. I wonder why that is.
Do you feel like... So I've called him Princess Tatum at times, because it's like the moping around at the rim when he doesn't get a call. Some of that younger stuff that he was doing that would turn me off. I feel like today's Tatum is sacrificing a little bit of his game for the betterment of the team. And it's like at times when Tatum gives us what was it, like a 46 piece against Cleveland, that type of Tatum is the guy that I want to see every night. But I just realized that's not realistic. I think where he's at, though, with these stats, it's pretty amazing. It's actually really amazing. Some of the guys on that list that are comparable to him, like where he's at for his points and his age, I think there were 5 other guys ahead of him. LeBron, Carmelo Anthony, KD, a couple others.
Mhm.
A couple of those guys have a year or two on them as far as their career link to that point. The sky's the limit for Tatum. It's like every time you see him on a court, you just want a little bit more.
I feel like he needs to hire a publicist or something. Like he needs to evolve his persona. I think people would say he has Tim Duncanitis, where he's just like he's obviously a great player, but there's not much to him. I would love it if I don't know there was a controversy that came out about him, or he just let people into the way he thinks about things and was maybe a little bit more candid, but just something about him doesn't click. Everything about the way he plays basketball and the stats that he has are there, but he's just missing that other thing that kind of takes him to the next level and makes him like the true face of the NBA. Because right now he's like second tier behind those guys that are the face of the NBA.
Sometimes I think him getting into like a legit fight would be an awesome thing.
Yeah.
Like not today's NBA fight where you got 27 guys pretending to hold a guy back that's pretending to try to get to another guy. Like legit go after it and get into a fight. I think, Tatum gets a little bit of that soft thing too, and I think he's a really good dad, man. Every time you see Tatum, he's just like chill. He's chill dad mode.
He's got Deuce around him, Deuce is in the locker room, or they're hanging out before the game on the side of the court. Yeah, I mean that's his persona is nasty basketball player and like good dad and mostly quiet, which isn't the worst thing for him, but just in terms of making fans passionate about him, it's just not there.
So that stat that they shared was points in the playoffs and points in the regular season. Random question for you. I'm looking at Basketball Reference. So year to date, 13,406 career points regular season.
Yeah.
So,
he, like you say, probably has it for playoffs too. I mean, dude, he's freaking been in the Eastern Conference Finals or Finals most years since he's been in the league.
Where do you think he ends? So right now he's 27.
Mm-hmm.
LeBron's sort of showing us an alien area for production at his age. Would you say so? JT's career average right now is 23 and a half. 13,406 points. Do you think he has another 10 boss years, productive years?
Definitely.
At like a 25 clip. Does he get to 30,000 career points?
Definitely, dude.
He does,
There's no
right?
doubt about it. I mean, I think so. Barring a catastrophic injury, yeah, for sure. Playing till 37 is nothing with the technology now for these guys and the way they take care of their bodies. So with the team that they have around him, like he's going to probably be winning for a good amount of time before they have to completely retool and rebuild. I think he's going to have a great career number wise when it's all said and done. It's just how do people view him historically, and how do people view him when LeBron's out of the league in 5 years, and KD is out of the league, and he really is that next piece because everyone's ready to hand it over to Anthony Edwards and now Shea, and obviously Jokic is already there, but Tatum should be there too. He's just not.
I have high hopes for the kid. It'd be great if he ended up with 4+ championships. That sort of puts him above Bird in the area of where he is all-time career Celtic. He'll score more than Bird. He's going to catch Pierce all-time scoring for Celtics, but the mantle is John Havlicek. It's almost 27,000 points if it's not 27. Yeah. I conceivably, he could be sort of second in championships won if he does do what we think he will do, and he'll be number one in scoring all time. That's a pretty impressive feat considering the Celtics' history.
I'm anxious to see how they finish up the season, man. We'll keep talking about them. We'll do another episode before the season even ends. I think playoffs start end of April, early May, so there's still a good month and a half left in the season. Lakers are a thing right now. They're having like a moment. It's been really interesting to see how a month later that Doncic trade is kind of playing out. LeBron scored 50,000 points the other day, which is ridiculous to think that he's in a class of his own with scoring those points. But the way the Lakers are playing too, they're turning into a real threat.
Lakers end up with this mid-20s superstar again.
Crazy.
Seriously, Randy. The irony of the whole thing is that you had the Anthony Davis trade, and you had all of this stuff where he didn't want to go to the Celtics initially, right? The dad said something about loyalty with Danny Ainge. Isn't it ironic that his son gets shipped out in a deal for Doncic? Luka apparently has some stuff behind the scenes that turned off Dallas. Apparently, I don't
Yeah.
know why. I don't know why they didn't shop him. I know we're talking about the Lakers here. We could get into some of that, but
Well, no, I
uh,
want to talk about Dallas afterwards too, but
yeah,
like
dude,
Lakers have won this trade hands down. It's
yeah,
ridiculous. And now I think they're 8-2 since trading for him. It seems like LeBron and Luka are playing really well together. Where I thought that they'd miss having Davis's height and presence around the rim,
yeah,
like they're making it work. And now they're the 2 seed. They're ahead of Denver. They're just
yeah,
behind OKC, and it's like, holy cow, is this as good as the Lakers have been since they won their championship in 2020?
yeah, yeah. I mean, anytime you gain a guy that's I mean, he's a gamer. He's a gamer. He can score the ball from anywhere. He makes everybody better. I actually am really severely jealous of the fact that somehow the Lakers weaseled their way out of an aging LeBron in a 31-year-old center with some injury history and some parts around it. They're geared up to have a centerpiece for another 10 years now. In present day, you can see what it's doing for them. Like you said, 8-2. It's awesome. They're playing great. And it's perfect for LeBron. LeBron might actually want to hang around for a couple more years.
Dude, and the way he's been playing, it's actually, I don't have his numbers in front of me, but when you see the highlights and you hear about the way people talking about him, like the experts, like he's playing better than he has in the past like 3 or 4 years. He's freaking 40 years old. He, there's no reason he can't keep playing. I mean, if he did, and God forbid his numbers go down a little bit, but he's already putting up better numbers than he's put in the past few years. So it's like, he could probably play till he's 45 at this point, Tom Brady style, and still be a borderline all NBA guy by the end of his run. It's incredible what he's doing. And I know there's really no real conversation to be had between who's the greatest, Michael Jordan or LeBron,
Yeah.
but he does have this longevity resume that reminds me of Tom Brady, and it's at some point it becomes really sizable.
Two quick things on LBJ. Last 5 games, 33 minutes plus. They're 5-0. Okay. He's got 34 points, 17, 28, 33, and 27. This is a human being that's over 40 years old playing max minutes at a high level in an area of age that nobody has ever done. It's impressive. And it makes me want to ask you a question because you said Brady. Brady's you could sort of cut Brady's career up into three parts. The first part, really not a passing league, and then it went into the passing league, and the stats end up being amazing. He's got the rings.
Mm-hmm.
MJ to me is the mantle. What would it take, Randy, for LBJ to pass Michael? Like he's got the longevity, he's got the amount of times in the NBA Finals, doesn't have the rings. Is there a particular thing that you identify that says this is why he's better than Michael? Or this is why he's my GOAT?
I don't think it's possible. I really don't. To even for some people, because there are some people, LeBron is the GOAT. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what that percentage is, but like there's people that already think he is the GOAT. So for those people, he's already all set. But then there's the people that are diehard MJ fans, or MJ GOAT people at least. And even if I think LeBron has 4 championships, 3?
Yeah, I think he's 4 for 9, I believe.
Yeah. So even if he won 6 and matched MJ and had the scoring titles and the longevity and all that stuff, there's always going to be people that say MJ never lost the finals, went 6 for 6, and was a killer. So I think at this point, yeah, he can get closer to it. He can win another championship and make that conversation different. But there's always going to be people that are like, MJ's the GOAT. He's never lost once in the finals, and he was just a killer when he had to be.
You and I are sitting here armchairing it, right? Like who are we talking about LeBron? I was in the barbershop the other day and we were arguing about MJ versus LeBron James, and my thing with LeBron, and I wonder if I'm like just overlooking something sometimes. There was this area for LeBron where even Kobe in an all-star game had to yell at LeBron to take and embrace that alpha moment and do it. You know, I've always kind of looked at LeBron where the major difference between MJ and LeBron is MJ would steal your child to win a game.
Yeah.
LeBron would be like, I've always had this impression of LeBron where it's like, is he willing to do that? I mean, LeBron's had a couple games where he's gone to GOAT level. I mean, he killed us once in Boston in a game 6 where I thought like an aging KG team was actually going to pull it off. And LeBron's like, nope. The game in the game in Detroit where he had 27 straight points, downhill Bedard is about to get going here. So LeBron's had like a couple of those games, but I've always had this impression where MJ was better at that. That's why I still have MJ with the mantle.
Yeah, and I don't think anyone will ever be able to sway people's mind on that. As time goes by, I mean, dude, it's been freaking 30 years since MJ played with the Bulls. Like it. Yeah, 30 years. So as time goes on, less and less people are aware of MJ's resume. Things like The Last Dance prolong things, and Jordan Brand is a thing. So it's like Michael Jordan's not going anywhere, but
he's the Black Jesus, dude.
yeah, he really is the man. So I mean, I was always a huge MJ guy back in the day.
So dope.
Still,
so dope. You see MJ, you're just like, I want to be MJ.
yeah, he was the best. So Dallas,
yeah.
are they going to have to just shut the franchise down, and the league's going to have to contract by a team just because of the complete freaking mess that place is right now? And by mess, I mean AD gets hurt in the first game he plays. Yeah. And the second part is Kyrie tears his ACL at this point in the season, which means he's out for the year, probably for next. They got nothing. Yeah, I feel awful for Dallas Mavericks fans, but it seems like that trade has worked out worst case scenario for them.
The GM, the owner, everybody that made that decision owes their fans, the concession people, the people putting the floor together, the guys hanging the nets. They owe everybody an apology. There was something going on behind the scenes, probably. Like, you hear a little bit about the vaping and the drinking. Dude, you forget Vlade Divac used to smoke cigarettes in the locker room. Arvydas Sabonis, all these Euro guys. Dude, these guys drink beer and they smoke. It is what it is. I mean, you just gave away 30 and 10. Basically, he's a walking triple-double for a bag of balls and some headbands. I mean, granted, AD's awesome. I get it. But, man, you just traded for a 31-year-old big with injury history, and you gifted the Lakers a superstar. Actually, more than I talk about this, I'm really pissed off about it because I'm not a big Lakers guy, but...
Did you see that Dallas increased the cost of their season tickets as well?
Get fucked.
That was on the news 2 days ago. So all of that stuff, and then they're like, I think the explanation was just because of reinvestment in the team. And it's like, you guys are a joke. Absolute joke. And there was that theory, or conspiracy theory, I should say, that the guys that own the team now made their money in Las Vegas, and they're really trying to like torpedo the Mavericks in Dallas so they could move that team to Las Vegas. And that seems like a ridiculous... Yeah, but this is like conspiracy theory stuff. This isn't like a real thing. But is it? Is this like... Because it seems like what they're doing, everything that they're doing is turning off their fan base and making people in Dallas like hate the Mavericks and their ownership. So I don't know, man. I can't imagine someone would buy a multi-billion-dollar asset like an NBA team and then freaking tank it just to move it to another city. But like, I don't know what the hell they're doing when they're making these decisions. It just doesn't make any sense.
Okay, I haven't heard the Vegas thing, so that's interesting because I was just going to say, if you just had this investment in a basketball team, one of those guys must have some basketball acronym. Sorry, I just said that the wrong way. They must have...
I'll let it roll. No,
yeah, they must have some basketball sense where it does not make any sense whatsoever to just get rid of the best player on the team. Like, if anything, when that GM walks up to you and says, hey, what do you think about this? You're like, man, no effing way.
I'm not so sure it wasn't the owners that went to the GM and was like, you have to trade Luka. I don't even know which way it was. It seems like very poor decision all around, and they're tanking. Shit, maybe they'll get Cooper Flag the way things are going.
Let's discuss just quickly. We are in an environment with athletes. If you are major money guys, you've provided nutritionists, guys that show you how to weight lift, guys that show you how to sleep. You talk about your brains. You're with therapists. I guess I just wonder if this kid was just anti all of that, and it just freaked out that machine of, hey, let's put this kid in the pipeline, and here's how you do it. And he wasn't doing it. And eventually they're like, we're out on this. We saw you play Matador defense in the NBA Finals. We're good. Go somewhere else. So if that's the case, don't you shop him around the league and get something better than a pick in a 31-year-old?
Makes no sense.
Yep.
I hope we get the full story, but it seems like people have referred to it as the worst trade in NBA history, and it just has very long legs and a story. At some point, it's going to die down, but not this year. And I hope at some point we get a real insight into what happened with this and the real reason, because it just doesn't make any sense still a month later.
Can we discuss real quick what word I was actually looking for there?
Acumen.
Thank you, acumen. I don't know why I lost that.
Hey, dude, it was a good bid, man. I was actually going to let it roll. I think the listeners probably would have just rolled with it too, but yeah.
No.
Now it's a thing.
Called out.
This one's a couple weeks old, but NBA All-Star Weekend. Did you watch it?
I did. Did you?
I did. I mean, I like NBA All-Star Weekend. At least the Saturday experience. I don't usually watch the Rising Stars game on Friday. I know it's a thing. Maybe some celebrity stuff. I'm not into that, but I do like the 3-point contest and the slam dunk competition. And if I have nothing going on, I would watch the skills competition too. But let's start with that night. Did you watch that night?
Yeah. Yep.
So they need to do a better job, even the 3-point contest, getting their stars in the 3-point contest and the slam dunk competition. It's Damian Lillard was in the 3-point contest, but everyone else is like not top tier all NBA guys.
Yeah.
It's a star driven league, dude. There's nothing like the NBA and their stars. These guys are the 15th biggest basketball guy is bigger than like a top 3 NFL guy, and
yeah.
Again, it's a league of stars, so they need to have these guys in there. And I just don't love the way that played out.
How do you fix it? So the thing that I've thought about is like, if you're insanely rich like they are, what is their motivation to do it? I don't know, because you've actually removed one of the key pieces of being so rich, which is the competitive side about it. Randy, I know that they're still competitive, but there's a layer now in between that competitiveness, and it's the greenbacks. Don't you think? It's like,
I don't know, dude. I don't know if money's going to do it, because what are you going to give them? $500K to do these things? Dude, these guys have freaking $50 million a year contracts at this point. I would like to think pride would be a thing. Like, I don't even need to have the best NBA players, or like say the 3-point contest. Like, it doesn't even need to be the best 3-point shooters. I don't need a bunch of 40-something% 3-point contests or 3-point shooting guys. Give me LeBron, give me KD, give me Tatum, give me like the best guys in the league, give me Luka, and just have those guys shoot 3-pointers. Like, that'd be fun just to watch the best guys do that. And it just seems stupid that, like, how is Steph Curry not in the 3-point contest? Like, why wouldn't he be in the 3-point contest? Instead, we have Buddy Hield and Tyler Hero winning it, and just a bunch of, obviously decent shooters, but I don't care about those guys.
Randy, let it out, man. Keep going, dude.
It just seems dumb. So that's the 3-point contest. Never mind the slam dunk competition. That I will give Mac McClung credit, because he's pretty good, but dude, this is a G League guy that's won the slam dunk competition for 3 years in a row that no one's ever done. It's kind of ridiculous, right?
It is. Yeah. I've thought about maybe the worlds versus each other would get these guys to be competitive. Somehow you put like the European players and you make it a format where you're kind of competing against each other that way within these formats. 3-point contests, Euros versus the Americans.
Good idea, dude.
Yeah. The game itself.
So what if you had that? I like that. Kind of like the Four Nations thing for hockey that I probably won't get to today, but it creates some pride, in the U.S. and then the people that are international. That could be a good angle. But what if you just took those two teams and like whoever's on those teams, that's the pool of people that need to compete in the skills competition, the 3-point contest, and the dunk competition. And you guys just figure it out, man. Like, but you guys, now that you're on the team, are doing one of those events.
You're right. I don't know, man. It's like sitting in networking where you make each other get next to somebody differently. Like, how do you do that with NBA players that are insanely rich and not motivated to compete in an all-star game?
Yeah, it's strange. Instead, we had 3 guys in the slam dunk competition that I never heard of. The guy for the Spurs is actually like a decent little up-and-coming player. And then Mac McClung. That was who we had doing dunks. And, dude, I think the first 3 guys didn't dunk it on their first like 2 or 3 attempts per person. And I was like embarrassed for them. I'm like, this is stupid.
The NFL Pro Bowl too is another issue. It's like these guys are just dancing around now. They don't take it
Yeah.
serious. It's like, how do you make this money get in the way of everything, man?
Yeah, and then well, money in the sense that people don't want to get hurt and jeopardize their career, and honestly, the owners probably don't want to do that too. But there has to be a way to do it. So before we get to the game, I did want to say Mac McClung's dunks were pretty decent. Like that guy gets up there, and I actually was pretty impressed with his dunks. I don't know what you thought of them specifically, but
I'm a big reel guy. I'll go down a rabbit hole of watching reels for an hour, pretty pathetically sometimes at night.
yeah,
Years ago when I saw this kid, his high school tape, his college tape, I'm like, who is this kid? I've just been super locked in on what he's going to do next. He's phenomenal. He, the way he contorts his body, how high he jumps, what he jumps over, his creativity, it's pretty impressive. And it's a and he's a white guy. It's
white
so
guy,
cool. Yeah.
like dude, he's obviously impressive. I'm surprised he hasn't cracked through into the NBA. I think he averages, I think like I saw 22 points a game in the G League, and he's won the G League MVP. Like, how is he not a 10th guy on a team? I think the Magic. He's in the Magic system at this point. I'm just surprised that he's down in the G League after the profile that he has.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
you know. So, game was a joke. It's not even worth talking about. It was a weird format of four teams versus each other. First one to win to 40, and then a little bit of a bracket. I still enjoy it. I mean, NBA All-Star Weekend is a thing for me because I've always loved it, but it was not their best effort this year. So,
Dude, the last thing to add to it is like showing my age. There was nothing like waiting for Michael and Dominique and Clyde and Larry Nance. Some of these other guys just compete against each other, want to beat each other. Dominique wanted to beat Michael in Chicago in the dunk contest. Larry Bird walking into
three-point
locker
contest.
rooms and just letting dudes know who's going to compete for second today. I crave that. It's like I don't want to be that old guy in the room saying remember when, but come on guys, give me something that I could talk about 15 years ago where 15 years from now where I could say I remember when LBJ did this or Tatum did this. It's like Tatum's got the all-time scoring record in an All-Star game, but if you watch that game, it was like, no defense at Rucker Park, dudes just shooting a million times in a row. It's like, okay, cool. Tatum has that record. It means nothing.
We'll see. I'll see what they're going to do next year. I'm sure they're going to revamp things because I think pretty much everybody hated this past weekend a couple weeks ago. So, want to move on to something else?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. I think I want to finish with a little Red Sox preview from Beds. I am not as big of a Red Sox guy as you, but we are into spring training right now. And a month from now, the season's going to start. Talk to me about the Red Sox.
They've been building their farm the last couple of years. Hein Bloom ends up getting fired last year. You got a new guy running the front office, but some of the stuff that's gone on from Hein is it's actually starting to hit, and it's going to be really nice to watch. You've got this decent mix of guys that actually Dombrowski guys between Jaron Duran.
Love that guy.
Actually, he gives me like Jacoby Ellsbury vibes that year that he had like all of those steals and a bunch of homers and then got 7 years from the Yankees and played like a season and a half. I like what they got at first baseman. It's like Trevor Story. If he's healthy this year, can he give us what Trevor Story is? We just signed Bregman, which was a really good get for us.
Talk to me about Bregman. Because again, this is where I'm going to sound like an idiot doing a sports podcast, not knowing much about baseball because I'm just primarily a football, basketball, and like other weird sports, but not baseball. So who's Bregman? What's his deal?
Think Dustin Pedroia, what he provides. Like a little bit of pop with the bat, some grittiness in the infield, rah guy. I mean, I just heard he convinced Cora to allow him to take a bus just to be with some of the rookies in a spring game where a lot of the vets weren't going. He's just that guy around the clubhouse. He's got some familiarity with Cora, so he's a Cora guy.
Where did he play before?
Astros. So he's a right-handed bat, which we lack because half of our rosters, 3/4 of our roster are lefties. Where he's going to play is going to be interesting to me because you've got Cassis at first, where he should be. Let me back this up. You've got almost 4 guys in 3 areas, and how that's going to play out is interesting. They have Yoshida, who's a bat. He struggled with the bat last year, and he really didn't look good in the outfield. His
Yep.
bat seems to be better. He should be in the outfield. You got to figure that out. You paid him. I, you got Devers. You got now you got this kid coming in from the Astros, and there's like, what do you do with short? What do you do with third? What do you do with first baseman? What do you do with DH?
Well,
So
didn't Devers say he wants to play third? Right? He doesn't want to be DH.
yeah, so it's almost like I want the incoming guy to play third because Devers is this weird thing, man. He can pick the most ridiculous play, and you're like, wow, he's feeling it. And then at the end of the year, you look at the errors and the runs given up, and he's sort of in the bottom of the league. So it's like, I would like to see him play DH. Just go into that poppy role. Just accept it, man. We've got 8 more years of you getting paid to be just a dominant hitter 4 to 6 times a game. Let these other guys play defense. So you've got some variables there where the lineup has too many guys, but that's always a good thing because you're going to get some injuries. I think this is an exciting area to be for the Red Sox between that and some prospects.
How's the pitching?
Okay. I was going to get there, but let's do it now. This is a team of starting pitchers. I don't want to get ahead of myself here. I don't want to do it, but remember the Pedro Kurt Schilling year?
Uh-oh. Throwing around some
Derek
big
Lowe,
names there.
Derek Lowe, it's Clay Buchholz, Bronson Arroyo. It's in that area, man. So we just traded for Crochet. Gives me Andy Pettit vibes. So
Oh.
when you do watch this, Randy, he's a big left-handed bat. He's in that area for Chicago where he's going to get paid. So instead of trying to convince this guy to stay on a losing team and overpay for him, they traded him to us. We had to give up some really good prospects. Walker Buehler, our number 2, really talented kid. We got him from the Dodgers.
Really?
It slips my mind now why he left. Probably money. I actually don't want to trip all over this. I forgot, but this kid is actually really talented. He should be our number 2. In the 3 hole probably is Tanner Hawk. So this is a kid that we drafted, we've brought up. He sort of has, if you remember Clay Matheson and also like Nathan Eovaldi, he has sort of that broader shoulder, sort of longer arm, heavy delivery where when he's pounding the strike zone, all you hear is the mitt popping. Then you have Brian Bello, another guy we've developed, probably has had the vibes of like the ace of the staff, but really hasn't kind of gotten there.
Yeah.
He struggled in some areas, but super talented guy. Pedro's always working with him. He's a little guy too. It's like you kind of see him on the mound. You see him on the mound and you kind of think Pedro vibes. So, we've got some other things going on in the bullpen, some strong guys, some heavy arms. I mean, this team actually has been very well developed considering the amount of negativity the last couple of years towards the Red Sox. They've done nothing to fill seats.
Yeah.
But
No, they have not. The Bregman signing definitely like raised my eyebrows. So, and everything you just said got me a little fired up. The thing that sucks about the Red Sox is they trade Mookie. They haven't wanted to spend money, even though maybe they act like they do. They ultimately don't. Kind of like Robert Kraft a little bit in that sense. And then you just realize that we're just not a destination anymore. We're not trying to win, and we're just worried about selling our monster seats in the merch. It's like I want a team that wants to win, and I don't know. Maybe they've pivoted back to that this year. Do they have a chance to compete for the division, or is that a little bit of a stretch?
No, absolutely they do. There's actually a lot of guys there's actually a lot of guys, a lot smarter than me at this saying that the Red Sox actually should be there at the end of the season playing in the series if things sort of go the right way where you're not worried about injuries and major things happening to the team. One of the things, so if we have some baseball people listening right now, they're probably screaming, Beds, you're not talking about the prospects. So the middle of the infield with third base, you've got some guys coming up. Christian Campbell, our number 2 prospect, plays middle of the infield.
Guy is he for the Who Sox?
He's up there AAA now, but
Yeah.
dude, probably the starting second baseman at some point. And so I don't know how that looks between Story. In theory, he should start to begin the season. I don't know if he is or not, but we'll see in a couple weeks. Dude, they got this kid, Roman Anthony, who's our number one prospect. He's a top 3 prospect in baseball. We drafted him in 22 in the second round. Outfielder, really, really highly touted prospect. Marcelo Mayer, another infield guy. So it's like, if we have some stuff with Bregman, with Story, where they're missing some time, and even if Christian does win the second base job, there's some guys to sprinkle in there from the minor leagues. I mean, there's a list of other ones. We actually have some prospects that are actually throwing the baseball, which is pretty cool. So I don't know, man. We've got this rebuild that's finally hitting like the Yankees rebuild hit a couple years ago.
Yeah.
So
that makes me excited. Every time around this year, I start to get excited. I start to hear things. I watch a little bit of spring training, and then we get in early April, and then freaking Red Sox start out like so shittily. And I'm in though, dude. I'm ready for the season. I'll definitely be watching.
it's nice. It's nice to note that like Dombrowski still has a little bit of his footprint on the team.
Yep.
And Heim, who was getting killed for a couple years, now some of these prospects are coming up. And similar to like Brad Stevens sort of making a couple of nice moves since Danny Ainge, now you have the Bregman signing. So it's like you got some stuff that's going right after some guys being moved around because of the perception that things weren't going in the right direction. So Randy's a big baseball fan this year.
I like it, dude. We're going to be talking about baseball over the next few months, and maybe we can dig into a little some of the other teams and other things to look forward to, storylines to look forward to into the season next time we meet for the cheap seats. So we are winding down. Is there anything else that you want to talk about before we wrap it up?
Yeah, we started the conversation with Biddeford basketball.
Yep.
I sort of wanted to really say that I'm proud of Ayla Lagasse. I want her to know that. I tell her that all the time. It's been great growing up next to the Lagasse family, and I have this long history of playing hoops with Chris. Seeing what Ayla did and seeing what the girls did was really special. The outcome wasn't what we wanted, but again, I use that Haley story of where she ended up. It's about the journey.
Yeah, and she is a great kid, man. I will say your relationship is obviously way different than mine, but I will say she's been a great role model for my kids. And
Yes.
Awesome with them. They very much, all 3 of my kids very much look up to her, especially my youngest, and she's awesome with them. And I remember when I was a kid and there were certain guys that I looked up to, Jason Tremblay's, and just like, so if I ever had a moment with them as a 6th grader with a person that's a senior in high school, it meant a lot to me and had a big impact on me growing up, and that she's been able to do that for my kids. And yeah, again, great kid, and congratulations to her. And I'm glad you had a chance to shout her out.
Dude, so Jason Tremblay was your guy?
Well, he's just one of the guys. I mean,
Yeah.
Pettit and Tardif, and there's a million guys, Grenier, and all those good football players back then.
Jason LaRiviere.
Yeah.
On a basketball court, what he did on the football field and baseball during that period of time, that's where you identified, wow, that kid's really good. And you want to be like that. It's cool that you shout that out because it's easy to overlook what an Ayla means to an Aubrey.
Just giving the time of day to a kid like that. I mean, we're talking like high school athletes to little kids, but like it does mean something. It certainly did to me, and I'm sure it does to a lot of kids. We all probably have those kids that we looked up to, and I know she was that for my kids. Or is that?
Cool. Yeah, that's really cool, man.
Yeah. All right, dude. Good stuff. We will do this again next month. Thank you, everyone, for listening.
Thank you to my immune system for allowing me to dominate episode 2. I apologize for episode 1. I was running at about 13%.
I'm sure your immune system will revisit things within the next month, so we'll see how it goes. All right, buddy. We'll talk soon.